Welcome to the Sleep Narrator. I know you use these videos to drift off into slumber, so before you close your eyes, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Also, let me know where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let your mind wander as I tell you a story. The Forgotten Room. In the sleepy coastal town of Eldermore stands the imposing Ravenshore Manor, a mansion wrapped in mystery and whispered legends. Recently inherited by Adrian Hart, a young historian with a penchant for unraveling mysteries, the manor holds a sealed room forgotten by time. An old brass key and a cryptic note lead Adrian into a decades-old secret that intertwines the fates of past residents, a lost treasure, forbidden love, and betrayal. Night by night, Adrian's exploration of the mysterious room reveals visions of the past, guiding him closer to the truth, while the sleepy town quietly observes, harboring its own hidden secrets. It was twilight when Adrian first saw Ravenshore Manor. The mansion loomed atop jagged cliffs, overlooking the restless sea, its silhouette etched sharply against the dusky sky. Adrian felt a shiver run down his spine, not from fear, but from anticipation. The inheritance had been unexpected, an enigmatic gift from a distant relative he barely knew. As he stepped inside, the air thickened with the scent of age and secrets. Dust motes danced lazily in the fading daylight that streamed through stained glass windows. Adrian paused, listening to the soft creaks and sighs of the old house settling around him. The lawyer had given him an envelope before departing hurriedly. Adrian opened it now, finding only a single brass key and a handwritten note. "The answers you seek rest behind a door that must never open." Intrigued, Adrian tucked the key into his pocket and ascended the grand staircase, guided by curiosity and an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Each step echoed softly, drawing him deeper into the mansion's embrace. At the end of the hallway, partially hidden by shadows and a heavy tapestry, Adrian found it, a weathered wooden door, untouched for decades. His heartbeat quickened as he slid the brass key into the lock. With a slow, deliberate turn, the door groaned open, revealing a room cloaked in darkness. Adrian stepped inside, reaching out to a small lamp on a nearby table. Light filled the space, unveiling emptiness except for an ornate mirror that dominated one wall. Drawn toward it, Adrian approached, gazing into its tarnished surface. At first, he saw only his own reflection, weary from travel, but as he stared longer, the reflection rippled softly, reshaping into an entirely different scene. Behind him, reflected clearly in the mirror, stood figures from another era, silent yet alive, moving within a forgotten past. Adrian spun around, heart racing, but the room behind him remained empty. He turned back to the mirror. The ghostly figures continued their silent pantomime, oblivious to him. Adrian reached out a trembling hand, touching the mirror's cool surface, and felt an undeniable pull toward the truth hidden in the forgotten room. The journey had begun. Sleep was elusive that first night. Adrian tossed restlessly, haunted by the strange images he'd seen in the mirror. When dawn finally broke, he wandered downstairs, eager to explore more of the manor. He spent hours examining rooms filled with forgotten relics, faded portraits, dusty books, and antique furniture that whispered stories of days gone by. Each room seemed to echo with faint traces of laughter and tears, joys and sorrows long since silenced by time. In the manor's library, Adrian found a diary belonging to Eleanor Ravenshore, the original mistress of the estate. The leather-bound journal was brittle with age, its pages filled with delicate handwriting. Intrigued, Adrian opened it carefully and began to read. The diary detailed Eleanor's life, describing the vibrant days when Ravenshore Manor was filled with guests and celebrations. But as he turned the pages, the entries grew darker, revealing a hidden sorrow, a love forbidden by her family, and a mysterious tragedy involving a lost treasure. As twilight returned, Adrian felt compelled to revisit the forgotten room. Once again he stood before the mirror, watching the scene unfold as Eleanor appeared, gazing sadly toward a distant horizon. She turned suddenly, locking eyes with Adrian through the glass. A chill swept through him as Eleanor mouthed words he could not hear, but their urgency was clear. Determined to uncover the truth, Adrian whispered softly, "Tell me how to help you." The reflection shifted abruptly, and Eleanor vanished. In her place stood a shadowy figure, cloaked in darkness, staring silently at Adrian. He stepped back instinctively, heart pounding. Who was this mysterious figure, and what role did they play in Ravenshore's tragic past? Adrian knew he must continue the search. The secrets of Ravenshore Manor were beginning to unravel, and with each revelation the boundary between past and present blurred dangerously closer. Morning sunlight filtered through the heavy curtains, casting golden stripes across Adrian's bed. He rose slowly, his mind swirling with unanswered questions. After a brief breakfast, he returned to Eleanor's diary, compelled to discover more clues hidden within her fading words. Eleanor's entries hinted at secret meetings in the manor's gardens, moonlit conversations with a mysterious stranger named Lucian, and whispered warnings from her family to stay away. Adrian's curiosity intensified. Who was Lucian, and what was the nature of their forbidden love? Driven by these revelations, Adrian ventured into the neglected gardens. Overgrown pathways twisted beneath tangled vines, leading him deeper into the estate's wild heart. Beneath a canopy of ivy-covered arches, he discovered a hidden alcove containing a weathered stone bench and a carved inscription, "Forever bound, never apart." Ian, as Adrian traced the inscription with his fingertips, a rustling sound startled him. Turning quickly, he caught sight of someone watching from the shadows, a figure who vanished as swiftly as they appeared. Heart racing, Adrian pursued, determined to uncover the identity of this elusive observer. The chase led him through dense foliage and crumbling paths until he reached the cliff's edge. The figure had disappeared, leaving Adrian alone with the crashing waves below and the lingering sensation that the manor's secrets were closer than ever. That evening, Adrian sat in the manor's study, contemplating the day's strange encounter. He sifted through old maps and documents, searching for any references to Lucian or clues to the vanished treasure. Outside, the sea murmured softly, as though whispering forgotten secrets. As darkness enveloped the manor, Adrian heard a soft knock at the front door. Surprised and wary, he opened it cautiously to find an elderly woman standing on the doorstep, her eyes bright with recognition. "You must be Adrian," she said gently. "I'm Agnes Holloway. I knew your relative and I knew Eleanor. It's time someone learned the truth about Ravenshore." Inviting her inside, Adrian sensed another layer of the manor's mystery about to unfold, bridging past and present in unexpected ways. Settled comfortably by the fire, Agnes began her tale. Her voice carried softly through the dimly lit study, painting vivid pictures of Eldermore's past. Agnes had been Eleanor's closest confidant, a keeper of secrets and witness to hidden meetings between Eleanor and Lucian. Lucian, she revealed, was a gifted but reclusive artist who had settled in Eldermore, capturing the wild beauty of the cliffs and sea in his haunting paintings. Eleanor and Lucian's love blossomed secretly, hidden from the prying eyes and judgment of Eleanor's strict family. Agnes described stolen moments beneath moonlit skies, heartfelt letters exchanged in secret, and whispered dreams of running away together. Yet their happiness was marred by fear, secrecy, and growing tension. One night, Agnes explained, tragedy struck. A violent storm ravaged Eldermore, and in the chaos, Lucian vanished, presumed lost at sea. Eleanor was inconsolable, retreating into isolation, her heart forever broken. Yet rumors persisted that Lucian's disappearance had been orchestrated, that dark intentions lay behind the seemingly accidental tragedy. Moved by the weight of Agnes's words, Adrian knew he had to delve deeper into this mystery. As Agnes finished her tale, she reached into her bag and handed Adrian a small, worn sketchbook. "Lucian entrusted this to me," she whispered. "I've kept it safe, waiting for the right moment. Perhaps it holds answers you seek." With trembling hands, Adrian opened the sketchbook. Lucian's drawings filled its pages, depicting Ravenshore Manor, the surrounding landscapes, and portraits of Eleanor. Among the sketches, Adrian noticed symbols and cryptic notes scribbled in the margins, hinting at hidden meanings and secret locations. His excitement grew. These sketches might lead him directly to the lost treasure and reveal the truth behind Lucian's disappearance. Adrian thanked Agnes warmly, promising to uncover the truth and honor Eleanor and Lucian's memory. After Agnes left, Adrian studied the sketches late into the night, deciphering the cryptic clues. Each revelation drew him closer to the secrets buried within Ravenshore, binding his destiny inexorably to the manor's shadowy past. The following morning, Adrian awoke early, eager to pursue the leads uncovered in Lucian's sketchbook. The cryptic symbols and notes teased at secrets waiting to be uncovered within Ravenshore and the surrounding area. Determined, he packed a small satchel with essentials, including the sketchbook and a notebook for recording his discoveries, and set out into the cool, misty morning. His first stop was the Eldermore Archives, housed within a small stone building in the heart of the village. The archives contained historical records, documents and maps dating back centuries. Adrian hoped to cross-reference Lucian's clues with historical events and locations documented there. Upon entering, Adrian was greeted by Thomas Hayward, a kindly old archivist whose eyes twinkled with interest at the mention of Ravenshore Manor. Thomas guided Adrian through dusty shelves filled with ledgers, maps, and old newspapers. Together they began the painstaking task of matching Lucian's sketches to the historical records. Hours passed, but their diligence began to bear fruit. They discovered references to hidden tunnels beneath Ravenshore, constructed centuries ago for smuggling and secret movements during periods of conflict. These tunnels had long been forgotten by most, their entrances sealed and obscured over time. Lucian's sketches hinted at an entrance concealed near the cliffs below the manor, precisely where Adrian had lost sight of the mysterious figure in the gardens. Fueled by this revelation, Adrian thanked Thomas and hastily returned to Ravenshore. Armed with newfound knowledge, he descended toward the cliffs, carefully navigating a steep, winding path that led down to the rugged shoreline. Waves crashed rhythmically against the rocks, a relentless reminder of nature's power and unpredictability. Examining the cliffs carefully, Adrian spotted an unusual rock formation partially hidden behind thick foliage. Clearing away the vegetation revealed a narrow opening, barely large enough for him to squeeze through. His pulse quickened as he stepped into the darkness, flashlight illuminating a passageway carved from solid stone. Inside, the air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of salt and decay. Adrian proceeded cautiously, Lucian's sketchbook guiding him through the labyrinthine tunnels. Symbols etched onto the walls matched those in the sketchbook, each marking his path deeper into Ravenshore's forgotten history. Eventually, Adrian emerged into a vast underground chamber. Its walls were lined with shelves filled with ancient artifacts, rusted weapons, faded scrolls, and chests sealed shut by layers of grime and neglect. At the chamber's center stood a stone pedestal bearing an intricately decorated box, untouched by time. Adrian approached reverently, his heart hammering in anticipation. Before he could reach the pedestal, footsteps echoed from the tunnel behind him. Adrian turned swiftly, flashlight illuminating the familiar silhouette of the figure he'd glimpsed in the gardens. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a young woman whose eyes mirrored Adrian's own determination. "I'm sorry for startling you," she said softly. "My name is Isabella Gray. Like you, I've been searching for Ravenshore's secrets. Perhaps together we can uncover the truth that has evaded so many for so long." Adrian nodded, sensing an ally in his quest, yet cautious of revealing too much too soon. Together they approached the pedestal, united by their shared purpose, but each harboring secrets of their own. As they lifted the ornate books, the chamber seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next chapter in Ravenshore's mysterious legacy to unfold. Adrian and Isabella carefully lifted the ornate box from its pedestal, their fingers brushing the cold metal that held the weight of untold secrets. As they opened the lid, a soft creaking sound echoed through the chamber, releasing the musty scent of ancient paper and dried herbs. Inside lay a bundle of letters tied neatly with a silk ribbon, faded photographs, and a small, intricately engraved pendant. With trembling hands, Adrian gently untied the silk ribbon, carefully unfolding the delicate paper of the letters. The elegant handwriting was unmistakably Eleanor's, expressing her deepest emotions and secrets. As they read through the letters, a poignant narrative emerged, one of unwavering love, desperate secrecy, and heartbreaking betrayal. The letters spoke of Eleanor's unwavering belief in Lucian's survival, despite the prevailing belief that he had perished at sea. She had discovered evidence suggesting his disappearance was orchestrated by her family, fearing scandal and ruin. Eleanor's final letter hinted at her desperate plan to flee Eldermore, determined to reunite with Lucian if he still lived. Moved by the tragic story unfolding before them, Adrian and Isabella examined the photographs. Images of happier times at Ravenshore filled the frames, capturing fleeting moments of joy. Yet among them was a photograph that stood apart, a group of stern-looking men and women gathered around a table in the manor's dining hall. Adrian recognized Eleanor's family members, their expressions grave and conspiratorial. On the table, clearly visible, was the same engraved pendant, now resting in Adrian's palm. Realizing the pendant's significance, Adrian carefully examined the delicate engravings. Tiny inscriptions hinted at a hidden mechanism. Isabella, noticing Adrian's intense focus, retrieved her magnifying glass from her satchel, and together they deciphered the puzzle. With a soft click, the pendant opened to reveal a tiny compartment containing a key, smaller than the brass one Adrian had received. "Another key," Isabella whispered, her voice filled with awe and excitement. "Perhaps it opens another hidden place within Ravenshore." Adrian nodded, contemplating the implications. Their quest was far from over, and every discovery only deepened the mystery surrounding Ravenshore Manor. Carefully placing the pendant and letters back into the ornate box, they secured their find and prepared to leave the chamber. Retracing their steps through the tunnel, Adrian and Isabella discussed their next move. Isabella revealed she had long suspected her own family's involvement in Ravenshore's secrets, driving her personal quest for answers. Adrian felt a deepening trust in Isabella, sensing her sincerity and commitment to uncovering the truth. As they emerged into the daylight, the ocean's roar greeting them once more, Adrian felt a renewed sense of purpose. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges and revelations, yet they remained steadfast. Together they would face whatever Ravenshore Manor held in store, determined to finally unveil the truth hidden beneath layers of secrets, love, and betrayal. Adrian and Isabella spent the evening examining the newly discovered key, its intricate design hinting at yet another concealed mystery within Ravenshore Manor. The quiet hum of anticipation filled the air between them as they sat by the fireplace in the manor's vast study, the flames flickering shadows across ancient walls. Adrian laid out Lucian's sketchbook alongside Eleanor's letters, hoping for any clue that might lead them forward. As they sifted through Lucian's detailed sketches, Isabella pointed out a particularly unusual drawing. It depicted a wall within the forgotten room, marked subtly with a symbol identical to the engravings on their newfound key. Adrian felt a thrill course through him, another hidden door waiting patiently to reveal its secrets. Without hesitation, they hurried to the forgotten room, guided by the moonlight filtering through stained glass windows. The mirror stood silently, reflecting their movements with uncanny stillness. Adrian approached the wall indicated in Lucian's drawing, tracing its surface until his fingers found a small, nearly imperceptible indentation shaped exactly like their key. With a deep breath, Adrian carefully inserted the key into the indentation. A faint clicking sound reverberated softly through the room, followed by the low rumble of ancient mechanisms stirring to life. The section of the wall slowly swung inward, revealing a narrow passageway hidden for generations. Exchanging a determined glance, Adrian and Isabella stepped cautiously into the passageway, their flashlights illuminating dusty stone walls lined with cobwebs. The air grew colder as they moved forward, the silence punctuated only by their careful footsteps and the distant whisper of wind through hidden vents. The passageway ended at a heavy oak door bound with iron hinges, covered in intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story long forgotten. Adrian reached out and gently pushed the door open, its creaking protest echoing softly through the hidden space beyond. The room before them appeared untouched by time, its shelves lined with carefully preserved artifacts, books, and paintings, all bearing the unmistakable mark of Lucian's artistic style. A large painting at the center of the far wall immediately drew their attention. It depicted Eleanor, radiant yet sorrowful, gazing out at an endless ocean. Approaching the painting, Adrian noticed a small plaque beneath it bearing an inscription, "To my beloved Eleanor, until we meet again, Lucian." Gently, he traced the frame, his fingers catching on a hidden latch that released a compartment behind the painting. Inside was another sealed envelope, slightly yellowed with age. Adrian carefully opened it, revealing a single page written in Lucian's own hand. The letter contained precise instructions, directions to a hidden location along the coastline, and the tantalizing promise that all their questions would finally be answered. Adrian and Isabella shared a moment of quiet exhilaration. They were now on the brink of uncovering the truth about Ravensshore Manor's past, Lucian's mysterious fate, and the treasure so desperately guarded by generations of secrets and silence. Gathering their resolve, they prepared for what promised to be the most profound discovery yet. The dawn broke with streaks of pale gold and lavender across the horizon, painting Ravensshore Manor in gentle hues as Adrian and Isabella set out towards the hidden location Lucian had described. The path took them along the rugged coastline, through wild fields where salt-sprayed grasses waved softly in the morning breeze. Each step brought them closer to the culmination of their quest, the tension palpable yet exhilarating. Following Lucian's precise directions, they eventually arrived at an isolated cove nestled between towering cliffs, hidden from casual view. The secluded area felt untouched by the passage of time, its silence broken only by the gentle lap of the ocean and occasional cry of distant seabirds. Carefully examining the cove, Adrian spotted a series of faint carvings on the cliff face, matching symbols they had previously encountered. Guided by the clues, they traced a path along the shoreline until they reached a shallow cave partially hidden by tangled vines and driftwood. Together, they cleared the entrance and stepped inside, their flashlights illuminating walls lined with intricate murals and ancient runes. The cave was cool and smelled faintly of seawater and earth, filled with a profound sense of history. Deep within, they discovered another passageway, its entrance marked clearly by symbols from Lucian's letter. Moving cautiously down the corridor, they emerged into an immense chamber, its natural stone walls adorned with delicate crystals that shimmered softly under their flashlight beams. At the chamber's center, atop a stone pedestal, rested a chest inlaid with silver and mother of pearl. Breathless with anticipation, Adrian stepped forward to open it, Isabella at his side. The chest yielded easily, revealing its astonishing contents, Lucian's missing paintings, perfectly preserved and untouched by time. Each canvas depicted powerful scenes of life and love, tragedy and longing, encapsulating Lucian's emotional journey and his profound love for Eleanor. Among the artworks, Adrian discovered Lucian's final masterpiece, a breathtaking portrayal of himself and Eleanor standing together, gazing toward an endless, hopeful horizon. Beneath the paintings lay another carefully sealed envelope. Adrian opened it, revealing Lucian's final words. The letter detailed Lucian's survival after the storm, his exile imposed by Eleanor's family, and his relentless hope that someday Eleanor would find these paintings and know the truth of his fate. Deeply moved by Lucian's enduring devotion, Adrian and Isabella carefully gathered the precious artworks, determined to honor the love story they symbolized. With heavy hearts yet hopeful spirits, they returned to Ravensshore, knowing that the manor's secrets had finally begun to yield their truths, waiting to be shared and remembered. Back at Ravensshore, Adrian and Isabella gently laid out Lucian's paintings in the grand parlor, converting the once lonely room into a gallery of love and longing. The late afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the artworks, making the colors shimmer like stained glass. Each brushstroke told a story, each canvas a confession of a heart that refused to forget. Word of the discovery spread quickly through Eldermore. Locals who had grown up with whispered stories about Ravenshaw Manor began arriving at the gates. Curious, skeptical, and reverent, Adrian made the decision to open the manor for one day, to allow the townspeople to see the truth behind the legends. Among the visitors was an elderly man named Charles Whitcomb, a former servant of the Ravenshaw estate. He approached Adrian with trembling hands and eyes wide with recognition. "I was there the night Lucian disappeared," he said quietly. "But I was sworn to silence. Now I see I was guarding a lie." Charles revealed that Lucian had not died at sea. He had been forcibly removed by Eleanor's older brother, Victor, who believed Lucian was tarnishing the family's reputation. Charles had witnessed the confrontation, hidden in the shadows, too frightened to intervene. The storm that night had been the perfect cover for Lucian's disappearance. Adrian recorded Charles's testimony, adding it to the collection of truths that now surrounded the manor. With every word, the mystery of Ravenshaw unraveled a little more, bringing light into corners that had remained dark for far too long. Later that evening, as the last visitor departed, Adrian returned to the forgotten room. He stood in front of the mirror once more, staring into the tarnished glass. Slowly, the surface began to shimmer. The room reflected was not his own, but a vision from decades past. Eleanor stood there, serene and radiant, facing Lucian. They held hands, their eyes filled with understanding. As Adrian watched, the two figures smiled and turned toward him. Eleanor mouthed the final phrase, one he could almost hear. "Thank you." Then the image faded. The mirror became just a mirror again. Adrian exhaled slowly, the weight of generations lifting from his shoulders. He turned away from the mirror, the stories of Eleanor and Lucian now etched into Ravenshaw's walls forever, no longer forgotten, but remembered, honored, and finally at peace. Days passed, and the manor settled into a new rhythm. Visitors continued to arrive, some seeking answers, others drawn purely by curiosity. Adrian spent his mornings cataloging the archives and preserving the contents of Lucian's chamber, while Isabella interviewed townspeople who now felt emboldened to share their own long-held memories and suspicions. Among these stories emerged the name of Margaret Alden, a childhood friend of Eleanor's who had vanished mysteriously around the same time Lucian did. Her disappearance, once dismissed as unrelated, now took on new light. Margaret's last known interaction had been with Victor Ravenshaw, and whispers spoke of a confrontation overheard on the cliffs. Driven by this lead, Adrian and Isabella returned to the cliffs, retracing their path to the secret chamber. Near the mouth of the cave, half buried in stone, Adrian uncovered a weathered locket. Inside, pressed beneath the glass, was a miniature portrait of Eleanor and Margaret as young girls, smiling in a sunlit garden. The discovery cast a new shadow across the tale. Was Margaret also a victim of the Ravenshaw family's tyranny? Had she known too much about Lucian's fate? Adrian couldn't shake the sense that one final truth remained hidden, one that would fully complete the story Eleanor had long tried to tell. That night, unable to sleep, Adrian returned to the forgotten room. He stood once more before the mirror, heart heavy with questions. As if responding to his thoughts, the mirror shimmered and darkened. A new vision unfolded. A candlelit room. Eleanor seated at a writing desk, tears on her cheeks as she penned a final letter. In the corner of the room stood Margaret, not a ghost, but very much alive. She paced anxiously, glancing toward the door as if expecting someone to burst through at any moment. Eleanor handed her the sealed letter and embraced her tightly. The vision faded. Adrian rushed to the library, Eleanor's diary in hand. Flipping through the final entries, he found one previously overlooked, dated the same night as the vision. It mentioned a letter given to Margaret, to be delivered only if I do not return. The letter, Adrian realized, might still exist. Isabella joined him at dawn, and together they searched through the manor's hidden drawers and compartments. At last, behind a false panel in Eleanor's writing desk, They found it still sealed with wax, still addressed to the one who finds the truth. They opened it carefully. The letter was Eleanor's final confession. She had helped Margaret escape the manor that night, spiriting her away through the tunnels beneath the cliffs. Margaret had feared for her life after uncovering Victor's plan to remove Lucian. Eleanor, unwilling to lose another person she loved, orchestrated her escape. With this last truth uncovered, a new peace settled over Ravensshire. The forgotten room, once a place of unanswered questions and haunted reflections, now felt lighter, its shadows dispelled. Adrian and Isabella stood at the threshold of the room, hand in hand. "It's finished," she whispered. Adrian nodded. "No, it's remembered." And the manor, once burdened by silence, now breathed with story. Every echo a tribute to love, loss, and the courage it takes to tell the truth. The days following Eleanor's final letter were quiet but full of meaning. Adrian and Isabella walked the manor's corridors with a new reverence, their every footstep echoing in harmony with the history that now felt fully present. The townspeople continued to visit, leaving behind flowers, handwritten notes, and even childhood sketches recalling Eleanor's kindness and Lucian's quiet inspiration. Though many questions had been answered, Adrian sensed one final step remained, something beyond revelations and records. Ravensshire had given up its secrets, but now demanded something in return, a future. One foggy morning, Adrian met with the town council. He proposed transforming Ravensshire into a living museum and cultural center, not merely a relic of tragedy and love, but a beacon for artists, historians, and storytellers. The council was hesitant at first, wary of disturbing the manor's mystique, but after a walk through the gallery of Lucian's paintings and a reading of Eleanor's letter aloud in the grand hall, they agreed unanimously. Work began that week. Isabella helped curate the collection, while Adrian documented every step in a journal he titled The Living Memory of Ravensshire. A team of restorers was brought in, not to change the manor, but to preserve its every nuance, from the weathered banisters to the scratch marks on the writing desk where Eleanor had once carved initials in secret. As renovations progressed, strange things began to happen, not eerie, but gentle. The mirror in the forgotten room stopped showing visions and simply became a mirror. The house no longer sighed with sorrow, but settled into warmth, as if finally at rest. One evening, Adrian stood before the mirror with Isabella beside him. He touched its surface out of habit, but it remained firm and unchanging. A soft smile crossed his lips. "It's just a mirror now," Isabella said. "That's all it needs to be," Adrian replied. "The rest lives in us." On the first day Ravensshire opened to the public as the Ravensshire House of Memory, people traveled from across the region to walk its storied halls. Children sketched Lucian's paintings, elderly visitors wept quietly in the forgotten room. And in the library, Eleanor's diary sat open beneath glass, forever turned to the final page that began, "To the one who finds the truth." Outside, under the blossoming magnolia tree Eleanor once adored, a bronze plaque was installed. It bore an inscription chosen by Adrian and Isabella together. "In memory of those who loved bravely, lived truly, and were never forgotten." Years passed, and the story of Ravensshire Manor grew far beyond Eldermore's coastal borders. Scholars visited to study its archives. Poets and painters drew inspiration from its halls. But among all who came and went, Adrian remained. Becoming more than just a historian, he became the manor's storyteller. He and Isabella made their home in the West Wing, where light spilled in each morning across Lucian's final painting. They welcomed visitors with warmth, guiding them, not just through the corridors of the manor, but through the emotions etched into every stone and painting, every letter and diary. Every spring, on the anniversary of Ravenshire's public opening, they held a lantern ceremony under the magnolia tree. Guests would write messages of remembrance, gratitude, and love, placing them inside lanterns that floated upward into the night sky, carrying their light into the stars. One day, a small girl visiting with her family asked Adrian, "Did all of this really happen?" Adrian knelt beside her, smiling. "Yes, and because we remember it, it always will." When the mirror in the forgotten room was eventually moved to a nearby museum, a new plaque was added beneath it, quoting Eleanor's words to Adrian, "Thank you." And beneath that, in Adrian's own hand, "Memory is not just what we keep, it's what we pass on."